Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. Cognitive problems and your thyroid ERISA disability insurance claim. I'm sure you know, if you've got a thyroid disorder, that this disorder can cause problems with your energy, with your concentration and memory. If your thyroid glands aren't functioning properly, you can experience symptoms like extreme fatigue, weight loss, weight gain, rapid heartbeat, hair loss, and those cognitive problems that can mimic mild dementia. So, what are the cognitive problems that will result from a thyroid disorder? The cognitive problems that I will normally see include impaired reasoning and judgment, difficulty focusing and paying attention, memory problems, impairment of communication and language. Obviously, these cognitive problems can impact your executive functioning. What's executive functioning? Well, that's your ability to do such things as planning, controlling your impulses, making decisions. And I found that those problems can make it difficult, if not impossible, to perform a person's occupation, be it their own occupation or any occupation. So, what do you need to know about claiming ERISA disability benefits as a result of a cognitive problem caused by a thyroid disorder? It is crucial that before you stop work and apply for benefits, that you get a copy of that policy or plan and read it cover to cover. I want you to understand some very basic terms. What is the definition of disability? What's the definition of your occupation? Is there a change in the definition of disability from an inability to do your own occupation to an inability to do any occupation? What documentation do you have to submit to prove your entitlement to benefits? And crucially, what does the policy or plan require in terms of objective evidence of the diagnosis of the thyroid disorder? Does the policy or plan require objective evidence of cognitive impairment? So, neurocognitive testing. The answer to these questions are going to impact your claim. And they're also going to impact the date in which you claim that you were disabled, and will obviously impact whether or not your claim is paid or you remain on claim. What's the objective evidence defense that are used by disability carriers or plans in these types of cases? Now, many disability carriers, such as Lincoln National Life Insurance Company, known as Lincoln, are looking for a reason to deny or terminate benefits. And one of the reasons that they will do that is that they will claim that there's not any objective evidence of your disability, regardless of whether the plan or policy actually requires objective evidence. So let me tell you the story of Robert Learn, who was the regional director of the Outpatient Rehabilitation Center at Centra Health. Obviously, he's involved in medical issues, right? Mr. Learn stopped working in 2017 because of symptoms of thyroid disorder, and he was paid benefits for 2 years. And of course, at that point, they said, we've had enough. We're not going to pay benefits. And what they claimed was that Mr. Learn no longer met the plan's definition of disability because there was no objective evidence of a decline in his cognitive functioning due to his wildly fluctuating thyroid levels. And I see this all the time. The thyroid levels will fluctuate, and there's a decline in cognitive testing. And the carriers want to see a straight line, if you will, between the thyroid levels and the cognitive functioning. And it isn't always there. So what happens in this case? Well, obviously, it ends up in federal court. Lincoln's attempt to require objective evidence was, I'll explain that in a minute. ERISA regulations require that disability carriers or plans perform what's called a full and fair review of the claim. They're not allowed to add extra requirements to a policy or plan in evaluating the claim, like requiring objective evidence if the policy or plan doesn't require it. So in this case, the court said, oh, no. Look, you, Lincoln, may say that you're denying this claim because of a lack of objective evidence, but you, Lincoln, told Mr. Learn that objective evidence wasn't required, so you cannot have it both ways. But the court went on to say, look, I'm going to look at the medical evidence, and Learn has submitted ample objective evidence in the form of neurocognitive testing that showed the impaired attention and dysfunction. Now, one of the things we have to be careful about is that many times disability carriers will look at the mental status exams that doctors perform cursory in the course of an examination, and they will say, well, there's no impairment of functioning. the person is oriented to place and time and space. That orientation basically is issues are used by the carrier to say, well, they don't have any cognitive issues. And by the way, that cognitive testing is contradicted by this mini mental status exam that the doctor did when the patient walks into the room. Okay. So Lincoln not only said that, but they said, look, this neurocognitive testing that he's relying on doesn't have any validity measures. And the court said, well, we're not going to buy that one either, because there was no evidence in this testing of symptom exaggeration or suboptimal effort. What about Lincoln's obligation to do that full and fair review that I mentioned they're required to do under the ERISA rules or regulations? Well, the decision-making process has to be reasoned and principled. The court ruled that Lincoln had arbitrarily walled off consideration of the appeal, and they did that by failing to provide Lincoln's paper review physicians the whole claim. They didn't give these liar-for-hire doctors the whole medical records that included the period of time in which they paid benefits. So as a result, Lincoln's physicians only reviewed the records after the denial date, even though Learn's thyroid fluctuations prior to that date had been found to contribute to lasting and sustained cognitive impairment by the doctors who had reviewed the claim earlier. Lincoln didn't also address the multiple affidavits submitted by Learn's friends and family that attested to his decline, and they didn't provide those to their reviewing doctors. So as a result, the court said, look, Lincoln did not engage with Mr. Learn's evidence and the medical opinions that his wildly fluctuating thyroid levels over years caused permanent cognitive decline. And as a result, the court said, too bad, so sad, you, Lincoln, failed to conduct a full and fair review of the evidence. And they ordered Lincoln to pay learned benefits. Lots of lessons here in that particular case about games that disability carriers and plans will play with these types of cases. Got it? I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Winning Isn't Easy. Please like our page, leave a review, share it with your family and friends. And of course, subscribe to this podcast. That way you'll be notified every time a new episode comes out. I hope that you've enjoyed this week's episode and you'll tune in to next week's episode of Winning Isn't Easy. Thanks.
Are you a professional with questions about your individual disability policy? You need the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. This book gives you a comprehensive understanding of your disability policy with tips and to-dos that will assist you in submitting a winning disability application. This is one you don't want to miss. For the next 24 hours, we're giving away free copies of the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. Order yours today at disabilityclaimsforprofessionals.com.